Good morning, everybody. Whew, all right, here and mostly on time with old computer fun. So, yay! All right, good to talk to you guys this morning. We have quite a few things to go over this morning, so I want to make sure I have plenty of time to go over them and answer any questions you have. Okay. All right. First thing is when should I start focusing on Q4 success? Last month. I know that's mean, but as quickly as possible. Your goals for Q4 should have really started like August, September timeframe, and then be implementing it throughout the month of October. But if for whatever reason you have not started yet, then start now. Also, happy Halloween. So in case you haven't started now, this is your Halloween guidance to you. Get started now. There's a few things that are really important for Q4. First is remain in stock. So if you haven't shipped everything you need to for Black Friday, Cyber Monday to Amazon, ship it now and ship it small parcel, not LTL. Things are already a couple weeks behind with LTL shipments being received. So you want to make sure that things are in and ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. That means get it in small parcel, not LTL. So that's the first thing is in stock. The second thing is your page and your page content. You have plenty of time to fix that. You have about 3 weeks now. So make that happen. And with your page content, you can update your bullets, put your bullets in the right order, make sure that you're mobile optimized. Never forget that mobile is different than web, so you need to double check how that looks and fix it. And then the third thing is make sure your ads are running like now. You need at least a few weeks to be able to optimize and run them to where you can put a lot of money behind them in Black Friday and then get some results. Now, I think it's frustrating about ads, especially if you're doing anything seasonal for Q4, is that a lot of times people don't have the traffic for that until the season actually starts. So it can be really frustrating to try to optimize ads based on really limited data, but you still need to try. And then you'll see how well it goes in the next couple weeks. Okay. So for Q4 success, in stock, detail page content, advertising. Those are your 3 absolutely critical elements. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes along with that too. But those are the 3 most important elements, is making sure that you have your product available to buy. That's an important one. But then also that people will find it and then want to buy it once they land on it. Okay. All right. 2, what time of year is the best for developing products? Actually, it depends on what kind of product line you have, right? So there's different seasonal things that happen. So if you're developing product for outdoor season, so starting to launch in March, you actually need to ship out of China by January. So to do that, you actually need to start your development process by around June, July timeframe. So if you want to get an early head start on it, then you can start around June. Toys usually start around May, actually. Usually it's April, May timeframe that people are working with the factories and deciding to buy stuff. But typically you need to be around June, July by the time you're posting a PO. So something fairly simple, July is fine. Then for if you're researching it, July is no problem to start at that point. With toys, they just do a lot of development, and so that can take a while, and then they'll end up cutting their POs. If you want to make time for the January cutoff, because of Chinese New Year, everything has to ship out by January or early February. You need to have your PO cut and into the factory by October 1st. So that's the reason why July is when you want to start. That way you can have plenty of time for sampling and going back and forth and making changes and so on. Now, if you're trying to aim for a Q4 launch, then you actually want to start around January, researching products and deciding on it, because you need to cut your POs by July 1st. For that, you need to have everything shipped before Mid-Autumn Festival. So that means before around September 30th. You need to be there for Q4. So it's all kind of based on Chinese holidays, because a lot of the stuff is coming in from China or Asia in a lot of places. If you're getting it produced here, obviously you've got a little bit more time for your peak season. It's just not that common to have things produced here anymore, sadly. So unless you're bringing it in from Mexico, even then you want to give yourself lots of extra time from Mexico, because random things delay things. You can't really guarantee that any guaranteed times will actually be met in Mexico. So you want to give yourself extra time anyway. Like plan around the Chinese schedule, not because of Chinese holidays, but because building the extra time in for yourself means that you'll launch on time. Which it's not mean to Mexico, it's just accurate. Sometimes things just get delayed. The on-time delivery isn't quite as consistent there. So whenever you're starting something, we actually have 2 cohorts for our coaching. We have we have what's called Design, Develop, and Launch. And that's basically a 3-month coaching on developing your own products. And we walk through the whole step-by-step process, going through it with you, making sure that you're not missing anything. And we have 2 cohorts, one that starts in January and one that starts in July for exactly these reasons. So the one that starts in January is all about launching for Q4. The one that starts in July is all about launching the following spring for outdoor season. Okay, so what can cause my seller account to be suspended? Good Lord, that's a really big question. It's a very broad question. At a high level, breaking Amazon's rules. That's an obvious one, but sometimes it's not that obvious. We had a case recently of a client based in Europe who had made a mistake, who was just following some advice from a blog and followed the advice and got their account suspended. And it's really frustrating when stuff like that happens, because they didn't mean to do anything wrong, but they absolutely did do something wrong. They didn't mean to, they just made a mistake. And Amazon doesn't care that much about your mistakes. Amazon cares that all the rules are followed. So that can be a kind of frustrating one, because sometimes people do it out of ignorance. Usually if it's out of ignorance, then you can go back to Amazon and say, hey, I screwed up. Here's what I screwed up, 1, 2, 3. Here's what I learned, 1, 2, 3. Here's how I'm going to correct that learning issue from never happening again. Because they don't want to just know that you were ignorant. They want to know how you're going to fix that ignorance going forward. How are you going to make sure that you're on top of Amazon policy? And it can't just be, I read the policies. Okay, what if the policy changes? How are you going to stay on top of that? How can they feel confident that if they reinstate you, that next time you won't make the same mistake? So what can cause my seller account to be suspended? Nearly anything. We've had cases where someone, manipulated reviews. That's a really common one. Complaints from customers about counterfeits, about you sold as new, about all kinds of different things. Intellectual property infringement claims. Some of it is really obvious, like having a page that used somebody else's brand name. Some of it's not as obvious, like erroneous claims of trademark infringement or copyright infringement. And then there's the patent ones that are a little bit more difficult. Then you could also get your seller account to be suspended. The IP ones, you have to have a lot of issues before that gets suspended. The thing with the image issues, that one was interesting, because normally we don't see suspensions for image issues. But for him, the reason why is because he was warned and then he did nothing. And so if you are warned and do nothing, that's a big problem. We've also seen, of course, for metrics violations, although that's not the most common thing now to be suspended for. Most of the time what we see for suspensions is often in the realm of customer quality, that people aren't happy with what they're buying and so they complain. And if that happens enough, then you've got a problem for your account. They don't like that. Number one issue for Amazon is customer satisfaction. If it's not the number one issue for you, it soon will be once your account gets suspended. Okay, the next question is, are there services available to prevent this from happening? Yeah, and you kind of need to know what kind of business model you have. So if you're thinking about your own brand, if you're talking about your own brand, the number one kind of thing that we see for people who have their own brand, what causes them to get suspended is actually problems with their development. So with their packaging, or with their labeling, or with their overall product quality, their inspections and so on. If you're buying it from someone yourself and putting it in your own brand, you have a lot more control over what you can do about that. So that's the number one thing we see there. Easy to prevent. Happy to work with people on that. For tracking your metrics, that's just a daily thing. You need to be tracking your metrics every single day. If you are doing this part-time and you don't have time to track your metrics every day, you need to hire someone to do that. The metrics you need to be on top of it. You need to be on top of your messages. You need to be on top of your shipments. You need to be on track of all of the key indicators that show that you're doing a good job on your account. And if you can't meet some of those, there are things you can change on your account. If you're going on vacation, you can put your account on vacation. If for whatever reason you have a problem with your delivery times, you can actually increase your lead time on your offer. There's various things that you can do to kind of prevent this from happening on your account. We work with people all the time who just didn't know what tools were available to them to fix the problems that were at hand. And sometimes you don't know that you don't know until you start trying to solve the problem for yourself and realize that you don't know how to solve it. But there's a lot of services available. We actually offer one where we check metrics for clients and send them reports each week. And then they have access to their own spreadsheet each day, so you can check the spreadsheet if you want to, rather than having to log into your seller account and take a look at everything. You just check the spreadsheet and make sure everything's good. There's other services that exist in this space for that as well. Okay, what are Amazon's FBA guidelines? There's some really broad questions this week, not very much specifics. FBA guidelines, that's kind of a super broad. I'm not sure what the context was, but usually what I see people confused by with FBA is the sizes of the packages. So what size of product can you ship into FBA? So for example, there are a couple different sizes really of types of oversized. There are a few different sizes of standard size. And so you need to know what product, like your product, fits into, because then that'll decide how much you have to pay Amazon. For FBA guidelines, in terms of packaging, that's the size, the weights and dims, right? For FBA guidelines, in terms of shipping things in, you need to have things labeled at an individual product basis. There's a basic policy requirement doc there. So you need to make sure things are labeled. Some of the questions that we get sometimes are, I have something UPC labeled, will that work? Technically, yes, although I don't know if I would go with commingling. There's a little bit of risk involved in there with commingling with other sellers, and maybe the customer doesn't get the product that you shipped. Maybe they get the product that somebody else shipped. So commingling can be risky, but it's certainly easy, right? You're using the manufacturer barcode. What we usually recommend is using the FNSKU, the Amazon barcode. And then for that, you have to sticker over the UPC barcode. You can't have two barcodes. It's too confusing. So that's a typical question that we get with FBA. The other thing that we get with FBA a lot of questions about is returns. There's a very specific requirement with FBA that all returns go to an FBA warehouse to be managed, not you. You can't actually set it up to be sent to you. You can only set it up to be sent to you after Amazon has already graded the product. And by graded the product, I mean they actually get it back. Then an employee at Amazon decides if it's sellable, decides if it's a good product. And then based on that, that's when they decide whether it goes back into inventory or if you're going to get the return. So there's a whole step there that you're completely cut out of. So that can be a little bit of a challenge for anyone who's worrying about the FBA requirements and what to expect there. And then I would say the very last thing that people don't seem to kind of grasp about FBA is that you have to have a box that's ready to ship. It doesn't need to be SIOC, which is ships in a container, but it needs to be something to where if they put it in a box with no bubble wrap, it would still make it to the customer intact. If your product can't make it to the customer intact as it's packaged at Amazon, then you're going to have a problem. So I would say that's the other thing that FBA, you really need to be paying attention to with FBA. Next question is, which types of products do best on Amazon if I'm just getting started? If you're just getting started and you just want to learn the system, the very simplest way to get started is to download the app on your phone, set up your personal account, not professional account, and go to a used bookstore. I'm absolutely not kidding. Just go to the used bookstore and start scanning books, or go to Goodwill and start scanning books. Then practice using the Amazon system using used books. That is the easiest way to get started, the least risky way to get started. And then do it merchant fulfilled with used books. And then that'll help you understand how Amazon works. It'll help you understand how listing works. It'll help you understand how the payment process works. Like all of the Amazon system stuff is a lot easier to learn when your product isn't high risk. So the simplest way to get started actually is to just go to some place where there's used books and use your phone camera to scan the ISBN. And then you can see what the items are selling for on Amazon. You can get some really interesting used books. There's some interesting kind of niche markets around used books. I think that it's a lot of time and effort to do it that way. And sometimes you can really hit it big, but I personally think that's a lot of effort. But I do think that it's really helpful to start that way, just so you can understand how Amazon works before getting to like proper consumer goods products that you've got to really think about. Okay, Tandy asks, thoughts on whether it is still viable, worthwhile for brand new small sellers to get into Amazon at this point? Longtime sellers with a lot of skin already in the game are in different situations than those trying to navigate just starting out. Amazon just seems to be tilting the playing field away from small third-party sellers. And that course that Christina just posted, those are kind of more like the legal and systematic kind of things that you need to set up, like thoughts about, whether to set up an LLC and so on. So that kind of gets you like a more legally side of it, not just if I should do it, but kind of a little more details on how. And our bookkeeper actually helped me write that one. So it's all the stuff that she wished that I knew when we first started. So that's kind of what her approach was there, was if you're going to hire a bookkeeper in the future, then have a big enough business to do that. That's what she wants people to know about. For whether it's viable, yes, I absolutely do think it's viable, but you need to have a plan that's not just Amazon. So it used to be, there was like, I forget her name, like Jessica something, Jessica LaRue, maybe, I'm not sure. But they were called like the Selling Family. And what they did was they literally went to Walmart, bought loads of stuff, and then sold it on Amazon. And it worked because they were in a part of the country where things were cheap at Walmart, lower cost area, closer to the main, to the main hubs and stuff. And so the product was actually cheaper. I remember going to Louisiana and going to a store and being like, what? It's that cheap? Since when? Since when is it that cheap? And it just is not that cheap in other parts of the country. And so then that's basically an arbitrage model where things were cheap. And so then they were able to list it on Amazon for quite a bit of a profit. Or things were limited in some quantity. Some things were available in some parts of the country and weren't in other parts of the country. And so you list it on Amazon, and now someone in Seattle would buy it. And people would be like, wow, I can't believe I can mark it up that much. It's like, well, that's how much it's marked up, here. And so that was kind of the model for a while. There were a lot of people who were making quite a bit of money on arbitrage. Then brands got really irritated by this, of course, and started finding ways to limit it. Then people were selling things that were kind of smashed up and broken. So Amazon got ticked off because then customers were complaining. So now there's a bunch of gated brands, and doing retail arbitrage is very difficult now. You really need to have a few different brands that you do, or make your own bundles. Bundles are still a good way to do that. But a lot of it is just not the way that it was a few years ago, which I honestly think is a good thing. It was kind of messy. I didn't even realize that was a business model until I got into consulting, and was like, what? So, and as with many arbitrage models, it only lasts until the arbitrage is over, right? Or the features that made arbitrage possible are removed. Now, for whether it's still viable for brand new small sellers to get into Amazon at this point, absolutely it is. And the reason why I say that is because Amazon has really leveled the playing field the last few months in reviews. They've made it to where it really is difficult to get into anything, whether you're an established seller or not. Launching a new product on Amazon is freaking hard. Whether you're a new seller or an established seller, any new product is going to be difficult. So just because there's an established seller, that only helps that established seller with their existing items. It doesn't help them with new items very much. There is a little bit of kind of halo effect when someone sees that another item in that brand has good reviews. That does exist, but they still have to launch that product from scratch. So it's not like it was before, where people would just go on Alibaba, buy 50 items, sell it on Amazon, make a profit, and keep doing that, and basically do China arbitrage. China arbitrage is definitely over, and that is a good thing. I will never, ever support what was happening with China arbitrage, because people were buying junk that was intended for like the Africa market and selling it to consumers in the US, and it was unsafe. It was bad quality. It was going to hurt people. It did hurt people. I know of a particular situation where someone bought a scuba mask on Amazon that wasn't safety tested and died. And this was not an isolated incident. I am not a fan of any of the things that happened there. So when we're talking about new sellers getting on Amazon now, if you do the right thing, as in actually develop a product that's good, set up your social media, set up your, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, have a presence online, either through a website or through social. Launch your product on Amazon. Kickstarter is a good place to go when you're trying to get the word out as well. And get reviews. There are various ways to do that don't require paying for them. There's the early reviewer program. There's other ways that you can do, friends of friends. You can't have your own friends and family review it, but you can always talk to your friends of friends. And there are ways to still get things going and get things launched. And we do this all the time for clients who are just getting onto Amazon. It's not easy, but Christina was talking about something that she was watching recently, where the marketer was saying, you used to be able to do all this junk on Amazon, but all those junk marketing tactics don't work anymore. Like, thank you. Thank you, Amazon, because junk marketing shouldn't work. You should actually have to do some work to be able to succeed. And now you actually have to have a little bit of social proof. You have to launch your product and develop a connection with your customers. You can't just pop it up on Amazon and expect it to sell just like that. It won't. So I absolutely still believe that Amazon is the best place to go if you're a new seller and you're trying to launch a business. Absolutely 100%. The traffic is like nothing else. But you do have to spend a little bit more time learning how to do internet marketing, much more so than you used to have to do. The competition is there. So you do need to think about something other than just Amazon. You used to be able to pop it up on Amazon, call it good, done. Now you need to have some sort of, talk about it on social, have a website, post some blogs where your product is the solution. People are searching on Google for products now, where they hadn't before. There's Google Shopping, and they're looking and they're researching. Have a blog post about your product. Have a website that talks about the product. Get people in. We just popped up a website for a client, and literally we hadn't even set up the FBA connection yet, because there's some technical issues there, and they already got 2 sales. And all that we did was pop up a website on WordPress and put up 3 blog posts, and we got traffic and multiple sales just from popping it up. So don't think about Amazon as being difficult. Think about Amazon as becoming more in line with the rest of the internet. It's not quite as easy as like shooting fish in a barrel like it was a couple of years ago. You really have to think of it just like any other internet marketing tool. And how are you going to utilize that to grow your business? That's what he said. Amazon wants to see real marketing efforts now, not the junk that worked before. I thought that was really funny because I've been saying that from the beginning. Like, what is this? What is this? How is this even working? Like, it just blew my mind that was even possible, that people could do that and it would work. And now, like, the actual, learning your customer avatar and knowing what the customer wants and giving it to them. That was, maybe traditional methods are out of style in some cases, but that's what'll eventually get you success on Amazon. And it does take a little bit longer, right? There are people who are like, I made $1 million business in 12 months. Unless you happen to have some sort of, like, what was that guy? Pet Rocks. Okay. If something like that happens, go viral. Okay. But most people are not going to have that happen. Okay. That's a great question to follow up with, Tandy. That's awesome. Which types of products do best on Amazon? If I'm just getting started, we talked about the books, but if you're just getting started with your own brand, the best type of products to get started with are actually accessory products, things that people need that attach something that's also really popular, something that solves a problem that maybe somebody else already hasn't. Think of yourself like big brands like the Great White Sharks, and your first product should be more like a suckerfish. Something that solves a problem that a big brand hasn't had time to solve. Okay, I have no idea how to sell on Amazon, but I want to learn. Can you help me? Yes, we actually have this one, the basics of getting started on Amazon. That's kind of a legal setup, like how to set up an LLC, thoughts about an LLC, talking to your bookkeeper and so on, kind of the logistical part of it. We actually have a course that's coming out soon on how to get started at all on setting up on Amazon, because I actually do this for training my team members. I'll actually go and buy a box of liquidation item from a liquidation supplier, and then send the box to them. And then their job is to list that whole product on Amazon. And this is really great training because we have a lot of folks who come from corporate. And in corporate, you don't have to do all the things. You have one specific job that you're trained to do, and then you do that thing. Whereas on Amazon, you've got to figure it out. You've got to figure out each piece of it. You've got to do it yourself. That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. Well, you come from corporate and then now you're helping sellers. You have to understand all the different moving parts. And so I basically take these boxes of basically junk product. It's not really junk. Like you need to look at it and decide what you're going to buy. But the last year, what we did was hats, skull caps. Literally, it's a beanie with a skull on it. And that was one of the most recent ones that I did and sent it over and had my team member practice listing the item, packaging the item, labeling the item, shipping it into Amazon, writing the listing, advertising the listing, each one of the steps. Because just because you know how to do it on the other side, just because you even wrote the tools, doesn't mean you know how the seller experience works. So this whole like training thing, I was like, wait a second, I bet this would be really useful for sellers, like new sellers. So wouldn't you like to know how to go onto a liquidation site and find a decent product that you can list? And for the products that we're doing, like those skull caps, the little beanies, they're like 75 cents. We're selling them for $12.99. Like liquidation is a great way to make money, but you do need to be really careful about what you buy and how you buy it, how you list it. And then you can waste a lot of money in advertising if you're not doing a good job there. So the best way to train is to actually do. And so I was like, wait a second, I bet sellers would like this training. So that's my next project after I finish the Q4 bootcamp that's ongoing right now. And that goes through obviously Black Friday. As soon as that's done, I'm actually launching this Get Started on Amazon, because after Q4, a lot of people are like, wow, I have this friend who did this and I really want to do it. I really want to get started. And our thing is always following the rules. How do you do it the right way? Well, there's very few ways you can do it the right way right now. And so that's what I want to publish and have folks be able to do that. And that course will be free. So if anyone wants to get started on Amazon for free, you don't need to make money off of telling you how to buy liquidation and list products. That would be silly. But hopefully then it will give people as much information as possible about how to do it the right way. And I'm sorry, my cat is messing with the bag. Sorry. If it's not the bird, it's the cat. I swear, like they're fun, but goodness sakes, that's a lot of background noise. Okay. Last question for today that came up was, what are successful Amazon sellers doing to become so successful? Yes, she is. She's a black cat, and she's bugging us on Halloween. And the thing that's really silly about this, oh, now the bird's getting into it. It's a happening morning at my house. That she will then just lay on the bag. So she literally will scratch this paper bag. I don't understand it. She'll scratch the paper bag and then she'll lay on it. I'm like, there's nothing cushy about laying on a paper bag. Like, you're such a weird cat. Anyway, so what are successful Amazon sellers doing to become so successful? Right now, what successful Amazon sellers are doing is they're doing non-Amazon things. A lot of people were just Amazon, 100% Amazon, getting everything launched on Amazon, trying to get traffic on Amazon, everything on Amazon. Now what people are doing is they're realizing that a huge portion of their traffic, because Amazon doesn't tell you where the traffic comes from, right? But a huge portion of Amazon traffic is known to come from Google. It's known to come from search and from Facebook, for people sharing posts or linking posts. So what a lot of people are doing now is they're going to Google Keyword Planner and they're going back over their pages, because a lot of people just focus their bullets using research tools like Jungle Scout or Scope and Merchant Words, and did their entire pages using those without ever thinking about how Google worked. So a lot of people are going back into their page and they're actually using Google Keyword Planner and adding in questions like, what are the phrases that people are looking at with your listing? What gets traffic on Google? Because Amazon automatically has rank on Google, right? So if you can get keywords to pop up there, you can get like your product on Google page 2, 3, 4. Obviously, Google page 1 is what you really want. Google page 1 is hard. But a lot of people will find, like sellers will find, that if they can get on Google page 1, it doesn't matter if they're on Amazon page 1. It matters that they are on page 1 in a place where a lot of people start their product search. And Google is free. You don't have to pay to do that if you can get on page 1 for people's search terms. So all that Google cares about is if they ask a question and then you click, then Google is vending data, right? Amazon is vending products. So they want to make sure that you buy the product. Google is vending data. So they want to do the most clicked, the most interacted with links. If your link keeps getting clicks, then your link will show up higher, right? It's that simple. So make sure that the way that you're looking at your listing is not just about Amazon. You're also looking at it for outside purposes for Google. And then also keep in mind that the pages that get the most kind of repeat traffic and most interest, Google does calculate the bounce rate, by the way. So if you go onto the page, it's not what they're interested in within the last couple seconds and they hit back, that's actually a problem. So what you want to have is you want to have, great images, great copy, title is super critical, and video if you can do it. And video now is built in as part of Amazon Brand Registry. So anyone can do video there. So that's what folks who are successful are now doing, is they're not just focusing on Amazon, they're thinking about all the ways that people get into their page. And Pinterest is huge for a lot of products. A lot of people miss kind of different kinds of social interaction because they're not thinking about it. But Pinterest is huge. Influencers are huge. Amazon is your safe, trusted selling zone. Think of Amazon like a product search engine that people trust. So when they see it on Amazon, that must mean it's real. Right? It's kind of a funny concept, but people really do see it that way. So when it's on Amazon, it must be real. It must be a thing that's important. But if they see you on Facebook, a lot of times people will then go and type in what you were on Amazon. So you may not get the clicks, but you can get the views. So you want to interact with people, have blog posts, interesting content that people want to know about. Content is so huge. And then share that information. people will then type it in. A lot of times what I find with clients who are doing a lot of off Amazon work is I can see that in their automatic ads. I can see in their automatic ads that their number one source of clicks and interest is actually their brand name and product information. And people don't search on Amazon for your brand name and product information unless they're previous customers or they heard about you somewhere else. Those are the two reasons why people search for you on Amazon like that. So if they're a brand new brand on Amazon, we just get them up. We're just getting things started. And then the first thing I see is that people are searching for their product and brand on Amazon. It means they're doing a lot of good things off of Amazon. So I hope that makes sense. A big part of our growth this year has actually been really exploring and working on off Amazon channels because we, most of us came from Amazon. We're very familiar with Amazon. We're very familiar with Amazon policy, Amazon requirements, Amazon selling, Amazon advertising, like all of the Amazon stuff. But to be successful now on Amazon, you can't just be thinking about Amazon. You have to be thinking about what else goes into Amazon. So that's been a huge focus for us this year. So yeah, that's it for this morning, unless folks have additional questions. If you have additional questions, now is the time, because it is now 7:30 and it's time for me to get my day started, and the sun is about to come up. So it's time to get the day started after being up for a couple hours. If you have any questions, as usual, please feel free to join our Facebook group, the Former Amazonians Guide to the Zon. And that is our Facebook group where I go in a couple times a week and we'll answer questions, and other members also will answer questions, but it's fully moderated. And I really want to make sure that's clear. If someone says something that's wrong, I will call that out because I think it's really important to make sure that there's a place where people know that the answers that are being provided are accurate. Not just a place where a whole bunch of people gather together and then a bunch of sellers say things at each other. This is fully moderated. So I don't let anything stand that would get you in trouble. And I'll also tell you if what they said is true. Like if it will make you a lot of money, great, you should know that. You should also know that it could cause this or that problem. Okay. And then thank you, Christina, for including that link. So yeah, it's super overwhelming, but it's, it's just like any other business. And I honestly think Amazon is way easier than some of the business models that I've heard of other folks talking about. Like I was talking to someone earlier this year, and their business model is to buy wholesale and then drive in their like camper truck. Like they have a truck that they have stuff, and then they have a camper attached to it, and they drive from like festival to festival and like 5K to 5K and set up booths and sell stuff that way. They're like totally itinerant, and that's how they make their money. Crazy. There's another person who hand makes clothing, and I was talking to her, and I was like, why aren't you on Etsy or Amazon Handmade? She's like, oh, I have a really great business, and I go to like 6 or 8 fairs a year. And she was like, yeah, the Renaissance Fair in California does a great job for me. And so she'll actually like spend her time making stuff during the year, and then she'll travel to fairs, like carrying all of her stuff with her. So there's like so many different business models out there. I still think that Amazon is one of the easiest. It can be pretty complicated, but it's not dragging all your stuff to California complicated. All right. Hope to see you in the Facebook group, and any questions, I'd love to hear about them. And have a happy Halloween. Enjoy trick-or-treating or scaring the kids, whichever works for you. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.